Hello, I'm Claire Smith and welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to be reviewing and ranking some perfume releases from 2022. I've got 4 very mainstream designer fragrances to talk about. I've just got some samples and I've been trying them out over about 3 days each. And I feel like, I've got a rough first impression of these fragrances now that I can share with you. And I'm just going to say which ones I wouldn't buy, which ones I would consider buying, and which is my favourite out of the 4. So if you haven't seen me before, I make videos all about perfume and perfume science. So if that kind of thing interests you, then please consider subscribing. And also please like this video if you do like this video. So the first fragrance I'm going to try out is Coach Wild Rose. So this fragrance is a flanker fragrance to Coach EDP, which came out in 2016. So this is quite a pretty kind of very fresh rose with really quite a lot of citrus and a leather note. I don't wear this very often, but I do quite enjoy it when I do wear it. It really doesn't have any kind of projection, but amazing lasting power. So how was Coach Wild Rose? Well, I was excited to try this because I really love rose and I really do quite like that Coach fragrance, but I just wanted something with a bit more oomph, and I thought this might have a bit more oomph. So when I first sprayed this, it was great. It was the opening is brilliant. It's like very fluffy, very soft, very powdery, but also fruity pink rose. It has bergamot and red currant listed as top notes. And I'd say I really get the bergamot. The bergamot is really quite strong, but it really complements the rose. It's really quite a soft bergamot. I think the red currant, I just smell it as fruitiness. I don't think I really know how red currant smells. So I can't really tell you how accurate that is. I think overall the opening for me was wow. It made me think of the texture of marshmallows. It felt really fluffy, really soft and really sweet and kind of pink. And I just really liked it. Where it all goes off the boil for me with this fragrance is the dry down. So in the dry down, it becomes less sweet. It gets really, really musky really quickly. And the rose dies back a bit. It just becomes just so overwhelmingly musky. And there's also a lot of pine. So actually later on in the fragrance, it makes me think very much of Baccarat Rouge and Baccarat Rouge dupes. It has that same kind of almost clinical feel about it. It doesn't quite get to the clinical, but it's definitely down that route of Baccarat Rouge 540 in the dry down. I think for me, I just don't enjoy that kind of fragrance. I've had enough of Baccarat Rouge and its dupes at the moment. I don't want to smell any more of them. And this one, that put me off. I just loved the opening, but I didn't like the dry down. I got about 4 hours longevity out of this fragrance, and actually the projection was far better than the original Coach EDP. So would I buy this? I'm afraid not. I loved the opening, but I just didn't really like the dry down. It felt really, really pretty to begin with. I think it's something that you could definitely wear in spring, summer or autumn. It feels quite versatile. It feels like something you could wear to work or something you could, wear on a date or something like that. It is quite a nice fragrance in the opening for sure. It's just not for me in the dry down. But if you like that Baccarat Rouge 540 vibe, this one could be for you. So that's Coach Wild Rose EDP. So the second fragrance I've tried out is actually one from Narciso Rodriguez, and this is actually Musc Noir Rose for her. And I have a mixed relationship with Narciso fragrances. So some of them I really like, and others I can't stand. So for example, I really don't like Narciso Rodriguez for her EDP, but I really love Narciso Poudre. So where was this going to fall on this scale? I didn't really know. And this is one that I specifically went to try and store because I was so excited about this release. But I have got this sample now. So again, the opening to this fragrance is beautiful. Initially, on the first spray, for the first couple of seconds, this smells like a really rich, leathery, almost like saddle leather kind of fragrance. Really an amazing first few seconds. Then after that, you get more of the tuberose. The tuberose really comes through with the bergamot. If you hate tuberose, just don't even think about this fragrance because that is really the most prominent note. I'm really confused by the naming of this fragrance. I don't understand why they didn't call it Musc Noir Tuberose. I guess it's because the word tuberose is too long and rose sounds better. But for me, this is more tuberose than rose. So the tuberose here is really heady and enveloping. And I think for some people it could be too much. This fragrance does feel quite heavy and it does feel just very elegant, very like put together, and I imagine someone wearing a very form-fitting dress going out wearing this. So the bergamot is also there in the opening, but it's very much secondary to the tuberose. And there's also plum listed as a note in this fragrance. And plum to me can make fragrances smell like booze. It can be something that's really quite rich. Here, it doesn't really smell like booze. It just makes the fragrance smell even more opulent on top of all that tuberose. So as this fragrance dries, the rose does appear, and it's a really soft, powdery rose, but the tuberose is really still prominent. So the musk is there throughout this fragrance, but it really becomes more prominent, and it's just a really beautiful kind of creamy musk, and it really complements the tuberose and enhances it. In the dry down, there's also something subtly spicy, and I don't know whether that's the pink pepper or something else. It's very gentle, but it just adds a really nice twist. So overall, this is just a really rich and sensual fragrance. I think the musk really adds a lot. The tuberose is beautiful, and the rose is fab as well. I think this one is really quite seductive, and it's one of those fragrances where it's quite subtle. It's not really in your face, but it just is very rich and opulent and sensual. Whilst it is quite heavy, I do feel like this could work pretty much all year round. It's something that could be somebody's signature fragrance. Whilst this is a new fragrance, it does have that sort of almost vintage feel about it. It feels like it's harking back to a time long gone. It feels like something a vintage starlet would wear in the 50s or something. This fragrance is definitely a lot less musk focused than a lot of Narciso fragrances. So I think if you don't like fragrances like For Her, I wouldn't be put off from trying this one. I think this is actually a really approachable inlet into that kind of Narciso musk. I really don't think it's too much at all. And it's really tempered by the tuberose and the rose. So the first time I tried this, I was actually quite disappointed with the longevity, but trying it again, I have actually managed to get at least 5 hours out of this fragrance. And the projection is not beastly, but it's pretty good. So did I like this fragrance and would I buy it? Yes, I really like this one. I thought it was really elegant, and I thought it smelled a lot more expensive than it was. I think it's definitely something that could be somebody's signature. And it would really slot right in my collection because I don't really have many tuberose fragrances. The only thing that I sort of doubt about this fragrance is the naming. So that's Narciso Rodriguez Musc Noir Rose. So the next fragrance is one from Issey Miyake, and Issey Miyake fragrances are actually made by the same people who make Narciso Rodriguez fragrances. So I actually quite like Issey Miyake fragrances. I have one from this line already. So this fragrance is called L'Eau d'Issey, Eau and Magnolia. What a weird name, hey? Eau and Magnolia. So this fragrance is part of the L'Eau d'Issey line that started back in 1992. And they've had so many flankers to this line. I own the Floral flanker, and I've also tried the Pure Petal flanker and also Pure Petal de Nectar. My favourite out of the line is Pure Petal de Nectar of the ones that I've tried. So this one, I was kind of, thinking I would probably like this because I've liked every other L'Eau d'Issey fragrance that I've tried. And I sprayed this one on, and I was immediately hit by something that I really wasn't expecting. So the top note of this fragrance is supposedly bergamot, and I don't really smell that at all. So what I do smell is something that's quite bitter and a bit orangey. And I did wonder what it was. And then I got thinking and realised that I've smelt this in another fragrance of mine that I've recently talked about. And that was Because It's You by Emporio Armani. And that fragrance has a neroli note that stays throughout the entire fragrance. And this, I think, actually does have neroli in it, if that's what I'm smelling. It could be something else. I'm not sure, but that's what I think it is. And yes, it does stay throughout the life of the fragrance, but actually the life of the fragrance for this one is really not that long. So if you hate neroli, I'd probably stay away from this one because there is something that smells like neroli, even though neroli isn't actually listed. So there is a magnolia note in this fragrance too, and I would say that it is quite prominent, but I wouldn't say that it's very realistic. When I smell this and I smell the flowers in my garden, they don't smell similar. This is really not something that is a very good magnolia note, I wouldn't have said. It's just not that creamy, and I think magnolia in fragrances can sometimes smell like a body cream, and it just doesn't smell like that here. So in the dry down, this fragrance does feel a little bit salty, and it's also a little bit musky and powdery. I don't know whether there's ambroxan in this fragrance, but I assume that that's what I'm smelling. I think the listed base is actually sandalwood, and there's no way I would pin this base on sandalwood. It doesn't smell anything like sandalwood. To me, the dry down is a clean, almost metallic musk, a really super squeaky clean musk. Considering the L'Eau d'Issey line is traditionally all about aquatic fragrances, I wouldn't say that this one really fits. I mean, I know Pure Petals and Nectar is perhaps not the best example of an aquatic fragrance, but at least it has sort of those watery florals in it. And I wouldn't say that the Magnolia here gives me an impression of water. There's nothing here that makes me think of water other than perhaps the saltiness, which I don't think is intended. So the L'Eau d'Issey line of fragrances actually is well known for lasting really well, and I would say this one is definitely the exception. This did not last on me beyond 2 hours, and that really shocked me. It's also basically a skin scent, so maybe it's something that I just stopped smelling. Maybe I'm anosmic to something in here, maybe the musks I'm anosmic to at some point. I'm not really sure, but the longevity and the projection were really not good on this fragrance. So in conclusion, do I like this and would I buy it? No, I wouldn't. I think there are several things about this fragrance that make me not want to buy it. So primarily the lasting power is just too short. And also I just don't enjoy how this fragrance smells. So that's L'Eau d'Issey, Eau and Magnolia from Issey Miyake. So the final fragrance is actually one from Valentino, and it's called Donna, Born in Roma, Coral Fantasy. So I was really excited to try this one because I really like Yellow Dream, and I do quite like Born in Roma as well. I don't think there's anybody in the world who doesn't like Born in Roma. It just feels like a very crowd-pleasing fragrance, that one. And I also own Donna as well from this line, so you know I'm quite familiar with this line. And this one is just incredibly fruity from the offset. So this apparently has notes of orange and kiwi, but to me initially this smells like a Twister lolly. So it smells more like pineapple and lime to me. It's just super fruity, super uplifting, really, really pretty for the first opening seconds. Really something that reminds me a lot of L'Imperatrice by Dolce & Gabbana. I mean, that fragrance has kiwi, so that's probably to be expected, but it's just not as bright and uplifting as that fragrance. It's a little bit stronger as well. It's not quite so sharp, not quite so sour either. So this one is just really quite fruity to begin with, is what I'm saying in a very long-winded manner. So as well as the fruitiness of this fragrance, there's also a little bit of rose in the background, and to me this fragrance really does smell sort of dark pink. I suppose that's the idea, isn't it? Coral fantasy. It's meant to smell sort of orangey pink. So as this dries, it begins not to smell like the Twister lolly, and I like it less. So actually you do get more of the kiwi, and you get more of kind of a sour orange to this fragrance. It's not really something that smells like orange juice, it's something that's more sour than that. But also in the dry down, you also get an overtaking of the whole of the fragrance with a lot of musk. This is a really, really musk forward fragrance, much like Lemon Dream is, and also like Donna is in this fragrance line. So in the dry down, the musk and the rose are really very much more prominent, but there's still that underlying fruitiness to the fragrance. So the dry down of this fragrance, I'm just not keen on. The musk just takes over for me, and it just is not very nice. It becomes incredibly sweet and a bit cloying as well. There is still the fruitiness there, but it's just not enough to save that real strong muskiness. The dry down for me is really the shampoo stage. That's the bit that is just off-putting to me. It's the bit I wouldn't want to smell on me for a long, long time. And actually this fragrance didn't have amazing longevity, but it did have, you know, a good length of time. It was sort of moderate. So I got like 4 or 5 hours out of this fragrance. This fragrance probably projects better than most of the fragrances in this video, but I still wouldn't say this is a beast. So do I like this fragrance and would I buy it? I wouldn't buy it. I didn't like the dry down as much as I liked the opening. The opening with the Twister lolly thing was everything for me. I really like that kind of childhood memory vibe in fragrances. And I do like that this is similar to L'Imperatrice. I really love that fragrance. It's something that I will go and spray every time I see it in a shop. And this one does have a definite vibe of that, but I think it's just not as good as L'Imperatrice. Even though L'Imperatrice doesn't last very long, it's just a very much more fun, summery fragrance. And this one, whilst it does have that lasting fruitiness, I just don't like the musk in it. The musk here is somehow brash. It kind of catches the back of my throat almost when I'm smelling this. It's really not something that I enjoy. So overall, I class this one as a spring summer fragrance. It does make me think of watermelon sweets, you know, those ones with the sugar on. It sort of smells a bit like that. It also makes me think of fruity cocktails, shampoo, that kind of thing. But yeah, if I wanted that opening, I would just go buy a L'Imperatrice. I think that's just the nicer fragrance of the two. So that's Coral Fantasy by the Born in Roma range from Valentino Donna. So how would I rate these fragrances? Well, I think my fourth place, predictably, probably, has to go to the L'Eau de Issey fragrance. I just really didn't like this one, and I felt like the notes didn't reflect how it smelt. The longevity is a major issue, and I just think that if something's not even lasting 2 hours, it's really not worth bothering with, even if it smells bloody amazing. So L'Eau de Issey is in fourth place. So second and third place are super close for me. They are really interchangeable to a certain degree, but I think third place is going to go to Born in Roma Coral Fantasy. I just really didn't like the dry down. I didn't like the musk, but the fruitiness at the beginning was really beautiful, and I really enjoyed the Twister Lolly aspect of this fragrance. But yeah, it's just not one that I would buy. And second place I'm going to give to the Coach fragrance, so Wild Rose. I loved the opening again of this fragrance, and I love rose generally, so this was always going to be something that I was going to like, I would have said. And it's just because of that kind of Baccarat Rouge vibe in the dry down that I just find super off-putting in this fragrance. But some people will probably like this fragrance because of that, so I think it's one to try. And the final fragrance, number one, is of course Narciso Rodriguez Musc Noir Rose for her. This was far and away my favourite, and it's ultimately the one that I would consider buying from these four. The other three, there's no way I would buy them. There's a possibility that I might buy this fragrance. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy the video, then please press the like button, and please also consider subscribing if you haven't done already. Also, please let me know if you have tried any of these fragrances and what you think about them. Are you considering buying any of them? Which other 2022 releases should I be checking out? Which is your hidden gem that I should know about? And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.